Balance is not always evenly distributing ourselves and our resources. Balance is properly distributing yourself and your resources.
It's time to exhale and be motivated. Annie's Blue Couch. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, to all of you, Annie's crew. Welcome back to the Annie's Blue Couch. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. Now, before we get into today's conversation, I want to remind you to please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and as always, please share this video with at least 2 of your friends. There's been a lot of panic in our world today due to the pandemic that we're in. And there are people who fill all the spaces of the entire spectrum of awareness and responsiveness to what is going on. We have some who are terrified to be outside the safety of their home, and some who are so not bothered and literally think that this is all some kind of a conspiracy. To be very honest, I understand both of these extremes. And if I allow myself to be consumed with the dangers of possibly coming into contact with this thing, I would definitely be one of those people who refuse to leave their house. I'd be home with Lysol and wipes and hand sanitizer at all 4 corners of every room in my house. And then if I get too caught up in the conspiracies going around, and there are some crazy conspiracies going around, I can also get consumed by all of the what ifs. Today, I want to talk about balance and focusing on the dash, your dash. I know you probably just thought, the dash? What's that? So there's a poem called The Dash by Linda Ellis. If you haven't heard of the poem, I put a link in the description box down below, and you can read it when you have some time, and then make sure to come back and leave a comment about what you thought about it. Now, what the poem highlights is the space between birth and death. We all have a birth date and a death date. We know the birth date, and for most of us, it's a big to-do when that comes around every year. In case you're wondering, my birthday is Christmas Day. And you all can make it a big to-do if you'd like. The other date, however, is quite daunting to even think about. And if you're like me, I don't even like talking about things like life insurance. I just don't like it. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about when you're not here. It's just too much for me. I understand the importance of things like that, but the conversation is just too much for me. You and I don't know when this other date is coming. And the entire premise of this poem is the dash between these 2 dates. And I think during a pandemic like this, when you might be concerned if by being careless or letting the wrong person into your space, or somehow one of these crazy conspiracies is really true, and that you may be quickly approaching that other date. It's time to have a heart-to-heart about the dash. I want to encourage you to live a balanced dash. First, let me define balance. Balance is stability. And when you think of stability, you often think of an even distribution of weight. But when it comes to our lives, balance is not always evenly distributing ourselves and our resources. Balance is properly distributing yourself and your resources. We have to plan how much of us goes into a particular project. We have to determine how much time will be needed. Are we willing to spend that amount of time? Do we have that amount of time to spend? What will I have to give up to do this? How important is this anyway? Is it necessary? Is it adding value? These are all questions we have to ask and answer in order to create balance in our lives. It's important to set goals and write things down and live on purpose, in purpose, for purpose. But how are we doing this? How are we creating this balance? We have to eat, but eating too much can lead to obesity. We have to have fun, but living in the fun zone means the not so fun things don't get done. We have to sleep, and I love sleep. But if we sleep too much, we won't be awake long enough to be impactful. We have to take breaks and go on vacations. But if we take too many of those, we won't have enough time to accomplish the goals our destiny and purpose demand that we set. Balancing is putting everything into perspective and giving everything its rightful place, space, and time. And balance doesn't just happen. Balance is created. Balance is practiced. You are in charge of the balance in your dash. You have to make the decisions that lead to balance. There's this term that's thrown around a lot: maintain a work-life balance. I don't even know why I just used that voice, but it just felt like it should be said that way. I think that's one of those catchphrases that employers create to make their employees feel like they care. I guess it sounds good. The opposite of work is not life, though. And the opposite of life is not work. Really, what we're balancing is doing versus not doing, and being versus not being, and ultimately living versus not living. We're balancing how we handle the dash. You and I don't know how long our dash is, but we've been given relationships and circumstances, strengths and weaknesses, options, opportunities, obstacles even, all to help us navigate our dash. And I want to be completely empty when that other date comes. I want to have poured out myself, poured out everything God gave to me to impact my world during my dash. I want to have made the best of every relationship God has gifted me with. You better believe relationships are gifts, all of them, good, bad, and every type in between. All relationships teach us lessons. So I want to tell you a story. The other day, my youngest was riding her bike, and her dad is teaching her to not depend on her training wheels. And the phrase he repeats over and over is balance, Amy, balance. And it's quite comical watching the whole thing play out. I know I should be laughing at her, but it's hysterical to me. And then I started to think, wow, this is kind of what we look like when we're not balanced. Wobbling, swerving, swaying, toppling over, just unstable. Now, she still has training wheels on the bike, but the training wheels don't actually touch the ground. They're there for when she loses balance. And I watch her ride all twisted, trying with all her might to straighten up. Her dad yells, "Pull yourself up, ride straight, look up, stop leaning." And she yells back, "I'm trying." And then when he pumps her up, yelling, "You can do it. I see you're getting better." That motivation seems to ignite something in her, and she gets fancy and she starts standing and riding. And she does it pretty well. I realized that when she puts in effort to be in an uncomfortable position, not seated on the bike, all of a sudden the bike balances and the training wheels aren't needed as much. So out of observing her process and going through my own life on training wheels experiences, I have come up with these steps that I want to share with you today to help you create and maintain balance in your dash. So step number 1, start wherever you are. My 6-year-old will never learn to balance her bike if she doesn't get on the bike and start the process. And you and I will not learn how to ride life with balance if we don't start. You cannot look from a distance at other people and wish and hope that this great balanced life will just burst into existence for you. As much as I pray this video motivates you to start, watching this video alone will not make balance show up at your doorstep. You have to start the process and start with determination. Start knowing that it will happen. Balance will happen. Start and do not give yourself the option to stop. Step number 2, look up. Keep your eyes on your destination. Focus on where you're going. Looking down will cause you to trip up. You'll stumble into something you weren't prepared to handle because your eyes were on the wrong thing. My daughter rides looking down at her feet, and her dad has to remind her, look up, look where you're going. Because while looking at her feet, she'll ride into a tree or another person, or worse, into the street. Your eyes need to be locked on your target, locked in on your destination, locked in on your purpose. When you're looking ahead, you can see obstacles, people, things that you might need to go around. And you can plan the path to take to minimize unnecessary, painful encounters. Now, that isn't to say there won't be anything to blindside you. Those encounters will teach you needed lessons. But there are encounters we can surely avoid if we don't lose focus. If we take our eyes off of our low places and simply look up. Now, step number 3, practice. Put in the work and be intentional. My daughter has to get on her bike every day. You have to make a plan, stick to the plan. Set a goal, stick to the goal. Create your mission, stick to the mission. Practice balance by setting timelines and windows to do things. Practice balance by creating boundaries. If you say you're going to spend an hour on social media, do not spend even 1 minute over. Don't do it. Because that's 1 minute you're stealing from your next task, which will create an imbalance. Practice discipline. Practice balance. Do it over and over and over until you get it right. Step number 4, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Limitations are real, but limitations are excuses to not try. Excuses to quit. Excuses to abort the mission. As real as limitations are, you cannot allow them to be the excuse for you not creating balance in your life so you can accomplish your goals. Staying seated in one place and disengaged with life may be comfortable, but it's time to get uncomfortable and push yourself beyond your limitations. When my daughter says she's tired, her dad says, give it one more try. And he motivates her to believe she can do it. And those are usually the times where she gets uncomfortable. She gets out of the seat and starts standing and really putting effort into riding because she's pumped up and she wants to prove what he just said about her. And she pushes past her limitations and rides pretty well. Step number 5. This is a big one. Learn to say no. Like, no. Can we go out? No. Can I come over? No. You want to go to dinner? No. Listen, do not let people guilt you into an unbalanced life. You have things to do. You have plans that you've made, and you cannot always say yes. When you are creating balance and boundaries, no will become one of your most powerful tools. Because every time you say yes without counting the cost, you may end up paying more than you ever thought you would, more than you can afford. And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about time. Yes is not being kind, and no is not being mean. Check your list, check your plan. Take a look at your goals and your mission and decide whether or not yes is necessary. If it is, it is. But if it's not, there's no apology needed for your no. People will learn to respect your time because you respect your time. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to. Sometimes you have to say no. When you manage your dash and create balance, you're going to avoid anxiety and stress. Because when there's no balance, you overwork yourself. And there are so many studies out there that all indicate that overwork results in stress and can lead to all sorts of health problems. We don't have time for that. Annie's crew, we got work to do. If you agree that we have work to do, let me hear about it in the comment section down below. Step number 6. This is our final step. Get yourself some motivational quotes and encouraging scriptures to keep you going. Put one on your bathroom mirror so you can see it first thing in the morning. Put one on your nightstand. Make one your screensaver on your phone. Put a few in your purse or wallet. Have some on your desk at work. Or maybe your dining room table for those of us that are working from home, right? We get one dash, and we have to make the dash count. My dash and your dash are not the same. The things I will need to learn to fully execute my dash may not be the things you have to learn. But we both have to put in the time and create balance in our lives to get it done. The poem The Dash appears to be written after the author recalls reading about someone speaking at a friend's funeral. When you read it yourself, you'll see what I mean. And I know it's super uncomfortable to picture your own funeral, like super uncomfortable. When I thought about this was kind of hard for me too. But for just a moment, close your eyes and think about it. See yourself at your own funeral as I read this last line of the poem. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? You can open your eyes now. What came to mind when your eyes were closed? Is there an area of your life that needs some balance? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to talk to you there. Being proud of your dash has everything to do with balance. Decide today to not squander your dash because you only get one dash. Until next time, remember that you are beautiful. You are special. Your smile is amazing. And don't let anyone or anything ever make you feel less than who and what God has designed you to be. Annie's crew, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Bye for now.
Annie's Blue Couch.